We are on the air everywhere. WeatherBrains episode number 527 for the 22nd of February, the mighty blowtorch of weather. It's the pre-show, the magical time of the show where we share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and occasionally say outrageous things. And this part of the show does not go in the produced podcast that goes to the world. It's only for you brave video viewers and the other WeatherBrains panel members. And there's only two of us. Brian, Bill, is it a basketball game?
Yeah, I thought he was going to the Lakers and the Thunder or something, but no, he's like the Helena Hellcats or something like that.
But Brian, just for some reason, he doesn't look like a basketball fan to me. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But
he's just a groupie. He likes those courtside seats. You know, he gets those. He's
got some hot dog seats down there on the front row in the VIP section. So no, look, I'll give him a break. We're about to put that man to work bad. He's got to come in tomorrow night and chase storms in the dark, which is a nightmare. And then he's got five spotter training sessions to do. He'll have one a week starting the first week in March. And then we wind up with a big granddaddy of them all, Storm Alert Extreme. So I will give Brian a break, get off the grid, go watch basketball. Enjoy.
So the Storm Alert Extreme is in the spring this year?
Yeah, you know, we did that. We've always done it with a car show, the Birmingham Automobile Dealers Association. And they always did it in November. And we would come in and do the show, and it worked great. For years, we did it there. And then they moved the show to spring. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we kind of struggled with it for the first 2 years, just kind of opted to sit back because it's busy for us, and it's just hard. And we finally, they were in May, and now they're in April. So we think this is a good opportunity to jump back on it. So we'll do what we used to do.
That's really better, actually.
Yeah, we'll do what we used to do in November. In April, it's going to be April 9th, and assuming we don't have tornadoes that day, which is always the greatest concern. But no, I think it'll work out well. And we opted not to do the usual dog and pony show. You know, typically in February we go around and do the weather tour. We've been doing it for 20 years or 19 years, and we just thought we've not done spotter training in so long. We really need that to boost that. So,
and plus the Weather Service is doing less of the face-to-face. So
right, they're doing mostly online, which is great. I mean, it's marvelous, but they are so tight on budget and personnel, they don't have the people to go train in person. So we can fill that gap. And, you know, just so happens that Brian is a former WCM, and that's what he did. So, I mean, he's a trainer. He's a very good trainer. So, but it's Storm Alert Extreme, April 9th. I'll probably come in and do a cranky presentation, and then Kevin Laws is going to come in and do polygonology, which is a great presentation.
Have you seen the probability of detection numbers nationally that have dropped radically?
No.
They've dropped 18 points back into the 50s over the last 3 years.
This is for tornadoes?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, we've got some news about Aubrey. Is this public knowledge, or do we need to
play the jingle?
Do we need to sit on this, or is it for public release?
Is it embargoed? Is it embargoed?
It's not embargoed. It's not embargoed. He made the announcement today.
We interrupt this program for a CBS Radio Net Alert Bulletin.
Go.
Yay, I'm the new evening lead meteorologist.
Wow.
Hail to the chief.
Wow. The crowd is standing. It's a standing ovation here in the WeatherBrains corporate headquarters.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't get that position, we were going to go up there and break somebody's legs. So they probably heard that.
I might have too.
Yeah, and we know a few guys named Moose, Rocco, and Guido, so they really don't want to fool with us.
I know.
Yeah, we have Rocky over there in the weather company offices too. There.
Yeah, exactly.
Weather factory offices.
I would have had to let the bear loose.
So when does this title take effect? Is this like immediately? Are you now the chief?
No, the chief title isn't for a year. But I am the lead meteorologist. It's a full promotion and everything, and then I get my chief title in a year.
Okay, I just saw the flash come by across the news wires here. I didn't read the full copy of the story, so that's kind of cool. Now, I would assume that you came in and negotiated a 300% raise for this.
I did. Full blown 12-figure, 3,000%.
Wow.
Yeah. Chopper
Wow.
included.
Oh, yes. And when we're doing the show, please give me the name of your agent because I could clearly use another one here.
No agent needed. But yeah, so George retires. He's got another week and not quite a week and a half. It's like a week and 2 days, basically through sweeps. So
you know what this means? We're going to wind up with 3 people on this show doing weather on television during the show, which
it's gonna be nuts.
I'm very fortunate because I do not have a 10 o'clock Eastern time show like most everybody else in the world. I mean, I am so stinking blessed. I just don't even want to think about it because I know one day it's going to happen because we've got I don't know how many TV channels we have in this building now. We've got 68 and 21 and 58, and at some point they're going to put a 9 o'clock news. It's 9 o'clock Central for us. They're going to put one of those in one of these channels. But what it does for me, not having one of those, I can see my family in the evening, most nights, and have a little bit of time with them, and I can do this show without having to stop, 30 minutes in. So, but you'll join the ranks of Kevin and me doing our thing here. So.
Yeah, we're all affiliates except for NBC basically. So we simulcast on CBS, and then we have the Fox show at 10. And
yeah, it's just like everybody's doing a 10 o'clock Eastern time show somewhere. But again, it's just been great that I don't have to do that. Dr. John.
Good evening.
On the line. Dr. John.
Coming to you from Norman, Oklahoma this evening.
What?
Ooh.
I got to play your song, man. If you traveled all the way to Norman, Oklahoma to get an internet pipe to get on this show, we're going to play some Dr. John. The year was 1973. I was in high school. I was a teenage disc jockey playing songs on the Big 1230, the mighty 1,000-watt voice of Tuscaloosa. Some songs like this one from Dr. John.
I've been in the right place, but it must have been the wrong time.
So what brings you to Norman?
Well, I saw Rick Smith today. We were here for the joint Weather Ready Nation Symposium with WDT and the National Disaster Preparedness Training Center. So Rick gave a talk this morning. Then I'm here all week. I'm taking some classes with the NDPTC so I can be an instructor eventually.
Wow. So I'm trying to figure out what hotel you're in there, John. I've been in
Postal facility, the Embassy Suites.
No, it's Courtyard by Marriott.
Show me the size of the desk, and I'll tell you if it's the postal training facility or not.
No, it's
your
not.
title right there. Show me the size of your desk.
I can do this.
Oh, brother.
If I was at the training center, I couldn't do this, right? I'd be touching the wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I stayed at that postal place one time. This was like in 2003 or something. That was different.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's different.
Aubrey.
Right? It's
Definitely.
wide enough to fit a mailbox in, and that's about it.
Aubrey, congratulations.
Thanks, Kevin.
Very
Yes,
excited.
way to go.
Thanks.
Very
I'll be doing full on weather like you, Kevin, during the show.
I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. Not bad for small market, right?
No, I want to come work for you and sweep the floors or something.
I've already said that. I want to be there for a show. I want to sit there and watch.
Yeah, you guys come on in.
We'll be the guys in the studio making the the noises and all that. Trying to, it's like in Anchorman, and the sports guy and the reporter guy. They were trying to distract the female anchor. So we can do that. All right. Hey, we're almost ready. We've got everybody here except our guest. Do I need to invite our guest, Bill, or you got that under control here?
Yeah, I sent him an email, but you go ahead and do it too, James.
All right. Andrew. Kevin, are you cranky?
Mellow.
Man, I think that's the key word for drunk.
I am a teetotaler, I'll have you know.
A teetotaler. Wow.
I used to play the song "Have You Never Been Mellow" by Olivia Newton-John. Speaking
Sure.
of my radio day. Remember that song, Kevin?
Oh, yeah.
And,
I heard it on XM yesterday.
I'd play that song. You know, I'd come out of the song. Well, I've never been mellow, but I've been drunk. Ho 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 ho! It was one of these joke book things. You know, you'd have these joke books in front of you. They were just horrible, bad material, just awful.
So that's how they do it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, the morning guy was Dave Baird, our news anchor here, who I work with still 40 years later, and he would leave his
Nothing's
joke
changed.
book. No, he would leave his joke book around the station. He would subscribe to this joke service, and you know, people would write this stuff, and it was just horrible. I mean, it was bad. Hello, this show's gone to the dogs.
Subscribe to a joke service.
So that's how Alan Hunter was funny on MTV, James? Is that?
Uh-oh, your audio is gone silent.
Dang it.
It's gone ballistic. Hey, Andrew, can you hear us? And you are muted, sir. If you could unmute, there's a little window up there with a little microphone.
Uh-oh. Seems like everybody's muted.
I'm here again.
Nate's
Maybe
muted.
it was
I'm
James.
here. I had a barking bear.
Hey, give me a mic check, Andrew.
Bear.
We're not hearing. Are y'all hearing Andrew?
He's stagnant.
No.
No, you're unmuted in the software, but it's like we're not hearing you. There's also a gear up there. You can go to settings and pick the right audio device you got.
Try barking, Andrew. We might hear
Well,
that.
yeah, you could bark. Yeah, you could bark. But we know that Andrew is in the weather research facility there.
Oh. He's speaking, but we do not hear him.
No, still can't hear you.
Aubrey, put your earbuds in Bear's ears and see if we can talk to her.
All right, dude, we're getting the creep
She'll try
zone
to
here.
eat them.
Hey, welcome. We are now on television. Welcome to our cable television viewers. This is WeatherBrains episode number 527. We are about to start the show. We got the gang all here. So if you could just bear with us for a minute. Once we get Andrew's audio fixed, we will start this sucker.
Bear with us. And
Just bear with us.
Bear with us. Yes. I'm excited about this Aubrey's promotion thing. We should be bowing down. That's great.
She's going to save the industry.
Just think about how young she is, and now she's on top of the world. She's running the place. I mean, she will save the industry. There's no doubt. She is our great hope.
Oh no.
How old are you, Aubrey?
I'll be 35 this year. I'll be 35.
What kind of a nosy question is that? That's
Aubrey and
rude.
I are friends. I can ask that.
I can answer that.
Wow. What's the HR's number? HR here. 1-800. You make me feel
The
uncomfortable.
WeatherBrains AR.
Please, if I still felt uncomfortable on the show.
Yeah, she just
It would have happened a long time
I
ago.
was about to say, yeah. All right, Andrew, give us he's still talking. We can't hear a word. And he doesn't know what to do. So here's what we're going to do, Andrew. We're going to start the show, and again, we're going to go through our banter here, and that'll give you 10 minutes to figure it out. So if we get you, we get you, and we will get you. We make things happen here. So let me hit the recorders here. All right, that's on, and that's on, and here we go. And let me get the right tab. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains episode number 527. This is the weekly show all about weather. This is for the 22nd of February, 2016. Thanks a lot for taking the time to join us this week. Got some fun things to talk about. The gang is mostly all here. Oddly enough, the one person that's missing this week is Brian Peters, the man we call the internationally beloved meteorologist. He is actually at a basketball game. What? You miss WeatherBrains for a high school basketball game? Apparently, you got some
At
kind.
least Rick Smith misses it for spotter talks.
Yeah. So Brian is out some basketball game in the VIP seats. Is that what's Rick doing tonight, Nate? Is he at a spotter training thing?
I believe so.
Yeah, he's actually doing back-to-back. He's doing one this evening, and then he's doing another one tomorrow evening.
Let me bring in Dr. John. Dr. John is on the road. He is in the land of Rick Smith, and you actually saw Rick earlier today there, right, John?
Yeah, that's right. We were both attending a symposium, basically on disaster preparedness. So Rick was representing the National Weather Service. We had a representative from FEMA. Emergency managers were here, private sector. It was actually a very interesting conversation.
Good deal. And how long will you be there? You still got more work to do, right?
Yeah, the symposium was one day. I'm here for some training classes that will take place for the rest of the week. So it's going to be a long week.
You don't have Chuck Doswell there in the room with you, do you? I was looking for that cowboy hat.
That would be interesting. I have to tell you a story though, before we go any further.
Go ahead.
I was registering this morning before the symposium started, and so I gave my name at the desk, and this lady comes up behind me and she says, "Oh, I know who you are." And I thought, "How would you know who I am? I'm in Norman, Oklahoma." And she said, "Oh, yeah, I watch WeatherBrains all the time. You have the greatest hair."
Yeah, the greatest hair, I'm telling you.
And that's what they'll remember.
She probably said you had the hair of an angel.
No, but I did think of you.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, no doubt Dr. John's got the best male hair in the group. We all know that Aubrey has the greatest female hair because she's the only female on the show.
I don't know. I think Dr. John might have me beat.
I would love to know. I would love to know the product that goes in both of these hairs.
Are you saying that Dr. John has the best female hair of the group, too?
I think overall hair.
Overall hair, okay.
Overall hair.
Now, you two could do this. All it takes is chocolate milk and beer.
Wow. All right, I'm going down to the Walgreens down here and buy me some. I'll see if that'll work for me.
It's too late for us, James, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Or is that just how you cover the gray, John?
I don't have any gray.
I thought the chocolate milk was sort of a wash, like a colorant.
I have 4 kids and no gray.
Is that like an accelerant?
Yeah.
So, John, you're saying no Grecian formula at all. That is your real hair.
That is my real hair. Yes, it is.
Wow.
And I actually said that to the lady this morning, and she couldn't believe it. But it is. It's the real thing.
Wow. Kevin Silly, is that your real hair?
What's left of it, yes.
Well, compared to some of us on the show, you look like a werewolf. You got plenty of hair. I mean,
It started coming out about the first week that I started interning with you.
I was about to say that's when you started pulling it all out. It just abandoned ship.
Yes.
Kevin is in Wichita Falls, Texas, and it's been pretty warm out there, hasn't it?
Very, very warm. Yeah, we tied a record one day last week and have been up near 80 degrees. Average is upper 50s. I have to mention, though, we're all celebrating in Texoma tonight because one of our smaller communities in the southern part of the region in Graham, Texas, we were watching the Kids Baking Championship on the Food Network, and one of the 3 finalists, a young woman, 13 years old, named Rebecca Beal, took the crown of Food Network first season Kids Baking Championship, and she is a rock star, and so we're all celebrating in Texoma tonight.
How cool.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah,
So somebody on Twitter just says there's an earthquake in Oklahoma while watching the show. John, did you feel that one?
Not a thing.
Okay, I know they had one earlier, I think, near Edmond, Oklahoma. It was like a 2.9 or something.
There was a 5.1 northwest of Oklahoma City a week and a half ago, maybe.
Yeah, Oklahoma's the Uh-oh, Bill, we've lost your audio again. It's gone.
Are you guys able to hear me at all?
Hey!
So we've been trying to get our guest Andrew's audio up. Andrew, you sound clean as a whistle. What'd you do?
I have no idea. I didn't do anything other than keep asking, can y'all hear me?
He stole the good audio from Bill Murray.
Yeah.
That's right. We're going to formally introduce Andrew in just a second as soon as we get Bill back. But no, Oklahoma's like the new quake capital of the world out there, Kevin and John.
It really is.
Let us know if you hear one.
I'm
Aubrey,
sitting here
just
watching- oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm going to say, Aubrey, share your exciting news, please, for the world.
We need the breaking news. Come on. Don't
yeah.
short
We need some music.
We actually rolled it during the pre-show, but because so many
roll it
people
again.
just listen, we're going to roll it again here.
We interrupt this program for a CBS Radio Net Alert Bulletin.
I've been promoted. I am the new evening lead meteorologist of WHSV.
Yay!
Very exciting.
That's fantastic.
So, and I have a great group to work with. So Laura Mock and Greg Master. George is retiring, so Laura and Greg will be my team. And yeah, what a great group of people.
Nice.
Awesome.
I heartily
where's that
endorse
weird
this
noise
product
coming
and
from?
or service.
So future WeatherBrains, I think after next week, I will be doing it from the studio.
Yeah, you and
Wow.
Kevin will be in the
Well-rested,
same boat.
Yep.
Do you have
And-
2 late shows, Aubrey?
Oh, we do. We have the 10 and the 11.
Oh, 10 and okay. So,
Yep.
well, you're
and,
that's right.
10 Eastern, so yeah.
Right. You same, yeah.
I know what those are.
I think that means that the email reverts back to Nate then, right?
Nope.
All right. Well, so Nate, when do you go NBC up there in Raleigh? Is that next week?
This time next week, I will be joining you from the newest NBC affiliate in the country. Proud as a peacock.
Tonight, fighting words. Donald Trump says Ted Cruz stole Iowa, accusing him of voter fraud. Cruz now hitting back without warning. Tornadoes tear across the South.
Without warning.
Now wait a minute. We had the guy on a couple weeks ago. Let's cut the man some slack here.
Yeah, but
we-
Lester
we-
didn't come on.
No, Lester didn't come on. No, that guy was great, but oh well. Maybe you can straighten him out, Nate.
We have to now wonder, does that mean that Lester will read anything put in front of him in the prompter?
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Right.
I'm Ron. Who typed the question mark in the prompter?
Right.
All right, let's see if we get Bill Murray's audio working, and if so, Bill, introduce our guests while your audio and his audio are working. Go.
Oh no!
Oh boy. Oh boy, Bill's got he went from the strange noise down to nothing. So.
You would think his hotels would have better Wi-Fi.
Oh!
That was a shot across
He heard
the
it.
bow.
He heard it. I can tell.
Bill, is there any hope here?
There.
Wow.
He just has to keep saying, "Can you hear me?" enough times, like Andrew did.
Hey, it worked great for me.
Wait, have you tried to turn it off and turn it on again?
Obviously, Nate's been in the sauce there. Nate, did you play those sound effects?
Can you make them out is the question.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, while we're waiting on Bill to get his audio up here, we'll just kind of introduce Andrew all together. In fact, I'll just read right off the sheet here. Tonight's guest weather brain is a graduate of the University of South Alabama, home of the Jaguars. His master's came from Florida State University in 2009, and he has been an instructor in the meteorology department at South Alabama, University of South Alabama, which is in Mobile since 2010. Andrew, thanks for coming on the show tonight. You're bold and daring and brave.
Thanks for having me on.
So first off, tell us about you. Where'd you grow up, and how'd you get interested in weather?
Well, I grew up in southeast Alabama. At least that's where I was born, around the Enterprise area. And then we moved into South Carolina. I lived in the Greenville area for a couple of years when I was really little. And then we moved out to Columbus, Mississippi when I was about probably 6 or 7 years old. And apparently I've always been interested in weather according to what everyone tells me. I was one of those little kids who would sit in front of the TV during tropical season and wait for updates on every 50 minutes when they did their old tropical updates back before it was nonstop. And apparently I would just sit there and wait for it as if it was going to change every every 10, 15, 20 minutes I would be expecting something brand new, and of course it's never going to happen. But the first thing I clearly remember about something with weather that really got my attention would have been probably during Hurricane, I guess it was Tropical Depression, Andrew. The remnants of it was moving up into Mississippi, and it spawned a tornado. And I could see it in the distance off in a gully back behind where my parents lived at the time. And I was pressed up against the sliding glass window watching it in the background. And my mom panicked, of course, and dragged me back away from the window. But that's the first time I clearly remember something weather-related that has an impression in my mind.
So let me ask you this. Now, when did you decide that you wanted to actually major in meteorology and go through this? Was it in junior high or high school? When did you decide to get really serious about it?
Oh, that's an interesting question, too. Honestly, I didn't even realize at the time that you could study meteorology and make a career out of it. I was actually really into sports, and I was really good with English, and so I was actually for a long time considering doing something along the lines of, say, sports journalism. And then I found out, I guess probably around sophomore year, maybe sophomore, junior year of high school, that you can actually do this and make it your career. And so at that point, that's when I began looking into schools, and the first one that I was aware of was Florida State. But then we found out that we had South Alabama right here in state, and that it was a synoptic and operational and forecasting emphasis at that program. And one thing led to another. I wound up here and got my degree, and now I'm back teaching. So.
Now, do you happen to know a guy named Dr. Keith Blackwell?
Do I know Keith Blackwell? Absolutely, yeah. He was my actually synoptic teacher, and when I was here as a student, and he and I actually worked together here at Coastal Weather, and we do a lot of we're pretty much a two-man team handling tropical forecasting for all of our clients here at Coastal Weather Research Center on campus.
So, and let me just ask you that. I mean, and for those that are listening to the show, you're sitting. I mean, that's a nicer set than what I have here. I mean, that looks good back there. I mean, so explain what that is and how is it related to the University of South Alabama and how that whole thing works.
Sure. Well, Dr. Bill Williams, actually, he was the founder of Coastal Weather, and he actually founded the meteorology program here at South Alabama. He had a private company, I believe it was called Capital Weather at the time, and he had this vision of bringing it onto campus and turning or creating a meteorology program that could not only educate students, but they could also see the private weather aspect and get involved and have internships available for students. So what Coastal Weather actually is now, it's not really a private company because we are part of the university umbrella, but we are allowed to make contracts with clients pretty much as we see fit, and the university doesn't mind at all. We have clients, I believe we're up to about 109 clients. I'm not really sure the exact number at this point, and we are across, I believe, 8 to 10 states. We've got shipping companies like Cargill that look for hurricane forecasts for us out in the Atlantic. We also have power companies for severe weather statements for things that are, sub-severe NWS and NOAA criteria, but they care about 40-mile-per-hour winds, bringing branches down. But the purpose of what Coastal Weather does as far as the program for the University of South Alabama, we exist to try to bring some money and some opportunities back to our students here on campus. We can help fund trips to conferences for students. We can do things like host CCAPS, which is 2 weeks from now. Coastal Weather supports that with a lot of the money and the funding to bring the speakers in. So it's sort of a semi-private company operating within the university umbrella, and it also serves to further support the program itself here on campus.
So talk about the actual program at the USA. I think people are familiar with what goes on at Florida State and Penn State and Texas A&M and Oklahoma and Mississippi State, but maybe some that are listening to us or watching are not that familiar with the program. So how long has it been there, and where are you guys going with it?
Well, I believe that when the program first started, it was a geography major with a meteorology concentration, which is true of I think, several programs around the country. And I believe in 1999 we got the approval to become, or it might have been 95, I forget the exact year, but we got the approval to become a full-fledged meteorology program. First graduating class, I want to say, was actually 1999, and it was a graduating class of 1. And since then, it's gotten a good bit bigger. I believe we peaked around 110 to 120 students back about 4 or 5 years ago, before the economy began to take a little bit more of a turn for the worse as far as finances for students and for tuition. And then we also had, of course, the NWS hiring freeze at the time. That fed back into, I think, a little bit of a downturn at many meteorology programs around the country. But let's see. So I guess I'm just trying to think about the exact answer to your question. Okay, so back to the differences between us and other programs. We have a big emphasis on synoptic meteorology and operational meteorology. We still do all the theory, all the math, and all the physics that are required by the National Weather Service in order to be eligible for employment there with any of the NOAA offices. But we strongly emphasize synoptic. According to the NWS criteria, you only need the 6 credit hours of synoptic meteorology in order to be eligible for NWS jobs. We do 12 credit hours. It's split up into 6 credit hours in the fall and 6 credit hours in the spring, and there's a very intense forecasting component built into the labs within our program.
So give a sales pitch. So let's say you got a high school student that's looking at Florida State and Penn State and the University of Oklahoma. What's your sales pitch? Why would a high school senior want to make the choice to go to the University of South Alabama to major in meteorology?
Well, I think that with our emphasis on the operational and forecasting side of meteorology, I think that our program is second to none as far as that goes. For example, sitting right here in coastal weather, you've got 2 of the 4 full-time faculty members here in meteorology who are not just doing modeling and research. And while we do have faculty members who participate in that, we also have myself and Dr. Blackwell, who are involved in real-time forecasting on a daily basis. During tropical season, it's Dr. Blackwell and I doing all of the tropical forecasts for coastal weather. And then during the severe weather season, it's myself and our staff meteorologist, Corey Bunn, another graduate of our program. We do all of the severe weather warnings. And so, for example, tomorrow night I'm going to come in. I'm going to teach classes from 9:30 a.m. until 4 o'clock p.m. consecutively. I'm going to go home, and I'm going to issue severe weather warnings for all of our clients across the southeast region, and we cover an area all the way basically to Memphis, Tennessee, southward over to Jackson, and then basically cut east to Birmingham, all the way to the Alabama-Georgia line, and then go south to around Gulf County and Panama City in Florida. It's a massive area, and we have 2 people covering that by ourselves, issuing severe weather warnings to clients. And so you get to hear not only just the theory from all of the faculty members, but you're really doing operational weather in many of your classes. Today, we abandoned lecture when we were looking at the severe weather setup for tomorrow in one of my classes, just because it's such a big deal down here. You'd be doing them a disservice, I think, not to talk about that in class. The really big advantage, I think, of our program is how much emphasis we put on the synoptic meteorology and the forecasting aspect. I think most students go into meteorology not to, I don't think they go in with an end goal of, I want to be a researcher for my entire life. I think most students go into it because they have some event that they remember distinctly, and they want to learn how to forecast for that type of event. They want to improve the public knowledge of whatever that particular aspect, whether it was a tornado on April 27th up in the Birmingham area, whether it was a Christmas Day tornado down here. Some student remembers that, and they want to figure out how to better forecast that, and we really sell that here. You're going to walk out of this program knowing how to forecast. And the National Weather Service offices around the country, they tell us point blank that our students really know how to not only talk the talk, or they can walk the walk. They can walk in and issue legitimate forecasts from day one.
Andrew, this is very, very good to hear. I was having an interesting conversation earlier this evening with Greg Stump and also Roger Edwards, who's a lead forecaster at SPC. And we were talking specifically about the education that students are getting right now and what they're leaving the institutions with, what their basis of knowledge is, and how well equipped they are to apply the knowledge into a operational forecasting environment. And I'll have to be honest with you, the consensus of opinion was they're getting theory, but they don't know how to use it. So I'm really glad to hear that you're doing this.
I can guarantee you that they are not only getting the theory here, but they're also getting the operational knowledge. They certainly have the theory to go on and do anything else that they want to do. I mean, I came through the program as an undergraduate and decided I wanted to go get a master's, so that at the time I wasn't sure if I wanted to teach or if I wanted to go into tropical forecasting. It turns out I got to do both. But I was certainly prepared enough to go on and get a graduate degree I got a master's degree within 2 years at Florida State. So certainly you can go with any direction that you want with it, but you're going to come out of this program absolutely knowing how to create a forecast that's actually worthwhile.
You said you grew up in Enterprise.
I did.
When did you leave? Did you say 2 years old?
Oh, I was probably 2 or 3 years old, but then we actually wound up moving back to Enterprise around, I guess I was probably in 6th or 7th grade when we moved back to Enterprise. And my family was actually there during the Enterprise tornado. Their house was probably about 1/8 of a mile from the Enterprise tornado in 2007.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if you did have any family there in March of 2007.
I was actually forecasting here on campus in the synoptic class that day, but my brother was at home, and he said it was, all the classic sort of stuff you'd associate with tornado, the roaring of the winds, the human outside and boards driven into the ground. The house on the opposite corner was pretty much just the 4 outside walls left over. My brother, he didn't know it at the time, but the roof did lift off of the house, as it turned out, and came back down. My parents were able to tell because the carport bricks had shifted when the carport lifted up, and so they didn't come down. It just lifted up, and the brick shifted and came back down and rested back on top of the sideways sort of slanted bricks.
Wow. Let me chase a rabbit on that Enterprise tornado. This was March 1st of 2007, and I'm trying to be nice here. There was some network correspondents from New York or wherever, Los Angeles, and they came down there, and they absolutely just took to task the principal of Enterprise High School, the superintendent of the system, and basically blamed them for killing all those people, the kids. Well, they said, they should have sent those children home. And so these blow-dried boobs went down there. They have no earthly idea what they're talking about. If they would have sent those kids home, the death toll, instead of being 9, probably would have been 100. Because what do high school kids do? They're not going to sit there and pay attention to the weather. They're going to go home and play video games or go hang out in their car. And I thought the decisions made by the school officials that day were heroic. And I drove all the way down there. Now, I did do a story, but I drove all the way down there to thank them, and please ignore these fools. And these people didn't do one single story that was positive. For the teacher that shielded 2 students and was seriously injured, and all these great stories, they didn't touch that. They basically came down there just to rip the school officials, and then they left. And that was very discouraging. I mean, I don't want to get into this network thing because we've had, we're trying to be nice, but gosh, that was so stinking frustrating.
Well, that actually begs a question, though, and if we're chasing the rabbit, let's chase the rabbit all the way.
Let's go down a rat hole. Let's go.
We have a moderate risk. SPC's identified a moderate risk for portions of the Gulf Coast, and a number of school districts have canceled school tomorrow. Good idea? Bad idea?
Well, it depends. Every school system is different. If you've got a school system where a large percentage of your kids live in mobile homes, that obviously is a bad decision. So instead of being in a good, safe site building, they're going to be in a death trap, which is a mobile home. I think for the systems that close, and again, every system is different. I don't think there's a right answer. I don't think there's a wrong answer. We have gone through this with all these superintendents here. But for the ones that do close, I think they should leave an option of leaving one or two of their school facilities open for those kids that do not have proper shelter. I think that's the right thing to do. And I think a lot of this goes back to Enterprise in 2007. It's a liability issue. We want those kids out of here. There's not going to be any lawsuits, and we're okay. But you can't run your life based on fear of a lawsuit. You need to run your life based on the right thing to do. So I think what they should do is leave a building or two open for the kids that don't have anywhere else to go. That's just my opinion. And already we've got schools closing in my DMA tomorrow.
So what's it? I mean, the devil's advocate to that position is if you have 1,000, 1,500 kids in one school in one place, and the tornado comes and levels the school, you will have more deaths potentially than you would if the tornado hit, just did a path and sort of picked off houses one or two at a time.
So
part of that argument though is that not all schools are properly built, and if you haven't had a chance to hear Kevin Kleesel from OU talk about, and I know Dr. John is there, I think you had a chance to hear him today. Right. And he did a talk at NWA this past year, and it was eye-opening about all of the things that we think we know about doing and sort of a pre-engineering look at a school to identify where safe places are, and some of the things that you would think probably work, some of them are completely wrong, and not just wrong, but would put people in more danger than if they were to stay in classrooms that had windows in them. It was one of these sort of eye-opening things, and the bottom line of the talk was you can't do this by yourself, that if you're not a structural engineer or you don't have access to it, you're not going to be able to really judge a school building to determine, well, really how well built is it. And plus, not all tornadoes strike from the same direction, not all tornadoes move the same way, and a lot of the sheltering plans were put together by well-meaning people who aren't structural engineers and who assume certain things about tornadoes that aren't necessarily true. I did a school, what was going to be a dog and pony show. We do the Tornado Severe Weather Awareness Week when I was in Texas, and I'm the chief med at a station in Small Market, Texas. And I go to a school in our viewing area that is supposed to be, it's supposed to be dog and pony show. Hey, look at the kids, whatever. The principal, God bless him, had the kids standing on their knees, chest flat up against the wall, with textbooks on their heads when they did the tornado drill. And the WCM from the Weather Service office and I were bamboozled. Like, where did you get this? What? And apparently he had seen it on some show on TV and said, well, this is what we'll have our kids do. And the guy from the Weather Service said, no, this is dangerous, and here's why it's dangerous, and here's what we can do to fix it. And we, instead of that being a 15-second VO, little quick story as we go in weather, hey, it was Severe Weather Awareness Day, did you hear the sirens? That was the lead story that night at 6, to talk about this is why you do these drills. This is why you bring in experts who know what this stuff is about to correct that. And I think with schools, I'm really torn, and I think, James, you're right that it's got to be in every school system kind of thing. And quite frankly, it might even need to be in every school kind of thing to make a decision. Is this a place that can withstand a hit, and are we concentrating, sort of in a sense, are we putting all of our eggs in one basket and making them a sitting target? I mean, the counter argument is, if they're in their own homes, even if they're poorly built homes, even if they're mobile homes, the tornado can't get them all. But if they're all in one place, you've sort of redistributed the risk. You haven't eliminated it. It's not gone. It's just moved.
But in the case of Enterprise, that was a well-engineered building as far as I know. The enrollment is about 2,200. You had 2,200 kids in the school. The death toll was 8, okay? So you send all those kids home, and if you saw the damage in Enterprise, this was an EF4, this was a big tornado. I still say the death toll would have been over 100 instead of 8. But you're right. This is a question. It's like the Apple, FBI debate going on in this country. This is very complicated. It is very complicated, and you have to understand both sides, and it takes a lot of time to research to understand it. But in every situation, it's different. There's no right, there's no wrong. But I still say, in the case of Enterprise, they made the right decision. They did the right thing. They had the kids in a safe place. and I think they saved a lot of lives. But I am so sorry.
I'm just here to be an accelerant since Kevin
I
is
understand.
tired.
Kevin just sits there and he's mellow. So, Andrew, what are your thoughts on Enterprise? I mean, I know you were like an infant or something. You probably don't remember it, but you're from there. What are your thoughts?
Well, I from my recollection, all my attention was on the impact that it had at my parents' house and just seeing everything that had happened right there. But if I remember right, it passed through a large number of residential areas as well. The high school was in the middle of a fairly extensive neighborhood or residential area right there, and I think that you're right, James. I think if they had been sent back to their homes with as many residences right there next to the location of the school, I think there would have been a lot more people that could have lost their lives, just because I do believe that school was better engineered than the homes around it.
No,
so I'm on your side with this.
Yeah, I agree completely. So anyway, thanks for letting us go down the rat hole here. But let's go back to USA and let's talk about CCAPS. What is CCAPS and how are you involved?
CCAPS stands for the Southeastern Coastal and Atmospheric Processes Symposium. It's an annual, it's a mouthful. I didn't come up with the name. I would have come up with something a lot shorter, but CCAPS is catchy, I guess. But this is going to be the 13th annual CCAPS. It's been going since 2004. It was actually started by the faculty member who was the instructor before I came in and took over for him. He went back and get his PhD. But CCAPS, it's not, I think we advertise it online as a student-run conference. It's not exactly student-run. The students do a lot of the execution in working in conjunction with the faculty member. So I am the faculty advisor for the conference. I'm responsible for ultimately making sure that the conference goes off smoothly, that we have keynote speakers and abstracts submitted, and that we have facilities reserved. But what I ultimately wind up doing is I work with a couple of our student coordinators who I tell them we need to make sure we have this reserved and we need to have keynote speakers contacted, and then they go out and actually do it. So in the case of this year's conference, it's public knowledge out there. James is one of our keynote speakers this year, and one of our student coordinators, Lily Dixon, she was actually the one who sent an email to him and said, would you be interested in coming down and being a keynote speaker this year? But they contacted all four of our keynotes this year. It's James, it's Dr. Marshall Shepard, it's Mike Gibson, and we have Rich Thompson from the Storm Prediction Center. So we've got a huge speaker lineup coming in this year. I think it's arguably, I don't even say arguably, I think it's no doubt the biggest group of names that we've ever had come in for a conference. And I just really make sure that everything runs as smoothly as it possibly can.
Now, let's say somebody's listening to the show and they have an interest in attending. How do you register? What's the cost? Accommodations? How does it all work?
Sure. I assume y'all are able to see my computer right now or my video feed. If I switch it to a desktop, show you my desktop, will that work?
Oh, just try. The least it can do is blow something up. So, we blow things up on the show all the time.
Can you guys see my desktop right now?
We're actually, yes, we see it right now. It looks good. Bingo.
Okay. Well, the web address is southalabama.edu/meteorologyclub/CCAPS. And you go to that web page, and underneath that one there is a registration tab. And if you go there, all you do is you fill in the information. It asks for contact info, where you're traveling from, and that's pretty much it. It's the cheapest conference you will ever attend for our own students. It is free, but for someone traveling who's a non-USA affiliated attendee, it's a $10 charge, and it's really just because we are having a increase in the cost for hosting the conference here every year. But you just go to that web page and fill out the registration form, and that's really all there is to it. It's held right here on the campus of University of South Alabama. We're holding it inside the Mitchell Center this year, in one of the rooms downstairs. It's actually pretty close to the arena. that's really, I guess, all there is to it. Just a $10 charge if you're not affiliated.
And I think a lot of people don't understand the importance of getting together in person, networking, meeting people. And this is true both for younger people that are college students looking for jobs, and for old guys like me. The knowledge that you can soak up. And, John, you're in Norman, Oklahoma. You went there for a reason. You went there not only to share your knowledge, but to learn, right?
Oh, 100%. In fact, that comment came up today that if you think you've learned it all, you know it all, oh, you're in the wrong place. We're all learning every day.
And so again, when I attend these conferences, they're just marvelous. And not only the information you pick up at the sessions, but just while you're in the hall chatting with people, and the ability to meet men and women that have been in this science for so long, that are so smart, and I've said this so many times, there's so much we don't know, and it's just a marvelous opportunity. So, and I'm looking forward to it. Marshall, all the guys, Mike Gibson, Rich Thompson, all these guys. These are great people, Andrew. You guys have really done a good job this year. It's a great lineup.
And I can say another advantage, I think, of CCAPS itself is that it's not like going to an AMS conference. It's not like NWA. You're not going to have 700 people there fighting for the attention of the keynote speakers. Here, we're going to have maybe on the order of 125 to 180 attendees, and there are numerous opportunities specifically for our students here at South to be able to have some one-on-one interaction with the keynotes, not necessarily even having to do with the conference itself. We're going to host a luncheon before the conference starts, and our students are going to have the opportunity to talk with the keynotes in an informal, sort of relaxed setting for 2 hours, and they're not going to be competing for that attention and that opportunity to speak and to network with the speakers. They're not going to be dealing with that with the people from other universities. The other universities and the general public will have that chance as well, but there are a lot of advantages that we try to kick back to our own students here at South.
And the weather tends to be pretty good in Mobile, Alabama. You're not going to Saskatchewan here. The weather's not too bad, except for the tornado problem that you're going to have tomorrow.
Yeah. That could be tomorrow.
So let's move on. And again, I'm the lead in the newscast. I'm going to have to give it over to Nate here in a little bit. But let's talk about tropical weather. I like to put people on the spot. People know that. So, Andrew, the 2016 tropical season is almost here, and I know you pay big bucks to you and Dr. Blackwell for the real detailed scoop. Give us the condensed version of your thoughts on the hurricane season this year.
Well, goodness, for the upcoming one, this is pretty early in the ball game.
No, but you're good. You're good. You come on now. You know you've got some thoughts, and we're not going to hold you to this. Just what's on your mind?
Well, we have had the cooler than normal water temperatures in the Atlantic here recently in the main development region. So hopefully that'll have an influence. The danger, I think, is how fast and if La Nina comes in behind this departing El Nino. Our ability to predict that is just in the general field of the state of the science, how limited our knowledge is of being able to predict El Nino and La Nina in advance. But statistically, it tends to follow at some point behind the strong El Ninos like this. So I guess it remains to be seen just how fast it sets in, and hopefully it will not show up so quickly that we get that relaxed vertical wind shear, and hopefully we'll be able to have a little bit less going on again this upcoming season.
Now, do you issue a public seasonal outlook like the guys at Colorado State and some of the other places, or is it all private for your clients?
It's all private for our clients, and we don't really delve into the arena of seasonal forecasting unless our clients specifically ask for something, and even then they know that's not really what we're in the business to do. We're there to try to give them the best forecast out there as far as the current system as it is existing, or as it's, will it even be able to develop from the disturbance that's out there. We try to focus more on that than the seasonal stuff.
When it comes to individual hurricanes, what's been your toughest tropical system to forecast in your career?
Ooh. Oh, okay. Well, I haven't been doing this nearly as long as Dr. Blackwell has.
Yeah,
So,
Dr. Blackwell's, he's an old fart. He's older. He's as old as I am. So, yeah. But
yeah,
you've been
Dr.
around for a while.
Yeah, he would have probably a different opinion on this one, but I would say that early on in the ball game with Hurricane Sandy at the time, that was a messy forecast because there were almost no models at the beginning that were actually trying to bring it into land. I believe at the time the Euro was the only one doing that for the longest time, and then it was a matter of, do we want to actually predict this relatively bizarre track hooking back towards the west into land, or do we want to kind of hedge our bets for a little bit longer? And of course, you didn't really have much choice in the matter. Everything was signaling after a period of time that it was going to have to come back in, and so that was a tough one because you had to be willing to, from our perspective, we had to be willing to jump on board early enough to give our clients enough notice to make it worth their time to have the service. You know, if we had waited the whole time until everything was showing it, then what good are we beyond the general model? So we had to buy into it a little bit more quickly, and thankfully it was the right decision in the end. That was a tough one, and then Joaquin this past year was also a pretty difficult forecast.
Yeah.
It didn't wind up having much effect outside of a lot of flash flooding on the U.S. mainland, but that was really difficult because, as it turned out, the entire forecast hinged on the very beginning of to me, a huge component, very early on in its lifetime. Was this system going to stay a little bit farther north? As it turned out, it drifted a little bit farther south, got closer to the Bahamas, and then still had the chance to hook back west. It was really dependent on a shortwave trough rounding the base of the subtropical high over the Atlantic, and a feature that you can't really even detect in models because it's out there in a data void region. So those two were very difficult because they could have been such high, well, one of them was very high impact for the U.S., but the other one also could have been, and just trying to get enough lead time for the clients on that can be it can make you cringe sometimes because you're putting yourself out there hoping that it doesn't blow up in your face sometimes.
Yeah, that's called the pucker factor.
Show title. Let me ask you this question, Andrew. Was Sandy a hurricane at the time of landfall, in your opinion?
I say yes. I say that. Oh, I don't want to get myself in trouble here.
Oh, go ahead. That's what we do on this show.
I say it was. I say that it was a tropical system at landfall because it had the plane showed a warm core as it was making landfall. The reconnaissance, you can go back and look at archives, it definitely had a warm core. The only thing it was missing was, I guess according to the National Hurricane Center's definition, the, quote, well-developed convection or thunderstorm activity near the center, which I'm not trying to bash the Hurricane Center at all. I think they do a great job for what their purpose is and for keeping the public informed. But that one criterion sometimes seems to get applied a little arbitrarily. And I think in this case, especially since they did not have the same plans in place that they have now for how they're going to issue high wind warnings or excessive wind warnings and how they revamped that since Sandy, I think at the time it just added to a little bit of the confusion that the public had as far as, is this a tropical system and what kind of impacts were going to be felt in the end. But yes, I would say it was tropical.
So let me go ahead, John.
I just got to say, this was a very difficult proposition for the insurance industry because many policies were written specifically with wind speeds associated with a tropical system versus one that is not.
Sure.
So there could be a valid claim if this was determined to be a hurricane at landfall versus the other side of that coin that it was an invalid claim. It would not be paid because it was a non-tropical system. I honestly, from my perspective, I think this was a hybrid. It showed some baroclitic instability at the same time, as you mentioned, there were tropical characteristics, including a warm core. I think for those that were, of course, impacted, it made no difference at all in terms of what the end result was. But from a payout perspective, it was huge.
So let me ask you about the hurricane forecasting in general, Andrew. It seems as though the ability to forecast the track, the skill is pretty good. It seems like the limiting skill set we've had in recent years or decades, it's the intensity forecast. Would you agree with that? And how do we get better?
Well, it's funny that you asked me that, because when I was at Florida State, that was a little bit of my master's thesis. We were looking at statistical prediction of hurricane intensity change using just vortex data messages from the inner core of the tropical systems. And like you said, at maybe 15, 20 years ago, the thought was if we can get the track, then we'll be able to get the intensity, because if you have the information correct as far as whether it's going to be over land or whether it will be over water, in theory, you ought to be able to have a better handle on the intensity. But that's not what's happened. If anything, it's been a very slow increase in the intensity question as far as the accuracy of the forecast, but there has certainly not been the same substantial increases in accuracy that we've seen with the track. So to me, that tells you that right away it's not a synoptic scale steering question like the forecast track might be. It's the intensity is behaving according to something else, and to me, I think it's the inner core that is driving a lot of the intensity changes on your tropical systems. The model that we came up with on my thesis project, and that was with working with Bob Hart at Florida State. We looked simply at statistical questions from the vortex messages and found that we could predict the change for a well-developed system. It had to be getting vortex messages generated in the first place. But for those, if you looked at changes like in the thermodynamic characteristics of the eye, whether was the temperature of the eye getting warmer, was it getting drier, looking at characteristics like that actually produced forecasts that were on par or better than the best intensity model that we have out there, which is still the SHIPS model, which is statistical, and that's using large-scale information for the most part. So I'm not trying to say that the entire intensity question is tied in the inner core, but I think that a much bigger portion than has been given credit in the past probably is factoring into the intensity question, in large part, I think, due to the inner core.
So let me ask you this. One of the frustrating things for me, I go back to some case studies with tornadoes, and of course for us, the last big event was April 27, 2011. The physical science was so good, but yet the death toll was so high, and what I think we all learned was that we have to learn human behavior and social science and communication and things that you don't learn in school. What's it like with tropical systems and hurricanes, integrating social science with physical science? Have y'all dabbled into that at all?
You mean here at Coastal Weather?
Yes. Yes.
Not too much.
Because the problem is you can be right. You can be dead right in forecasting the track and forecasting the intensity. Amazing accuracy. And yet the death toll could wind up to be, 100. Something went wrong there, and that's one of our big frustrations that we have in tornado country up here. And at some point, we're going to start getting hurricanes again striking the United States. And I'm afraid, it's been so long since that Ivan, Katrina stretch, 10 years ago, that we're just not ready, and people aren't going to be paying attention.
Well, like you said, you can have a perfect forecast, but you can't make everyone listen to that perfect forecast. And we're not really dabbling into the social aspect of it, because that's, I guess, beyond the scope of what we even have the capability of doing here. We don't have the biggest staff here. We're really an operation of 4 or 5 people total. But yeah, it's a problem, and it's something that does need to be addressed. And I think that's part of the big reason why the National Weather Service and NOAA are making that part of their new push, is effective communication. How can we better get those forecasts out to the public in a usable format? I agree.
And one more question here, and I'm trying not to get you in trouble. National Hurricane Center, give them a grade. I want you to grade them on their performance. A, B, C, D, F. Go.
That is so not a fair question.
That's what I do. You see, when Bill Murray goes down the tubes, I got to pick this up. I ask the hard ones.
I think that for what they are tasked with doing, I think that you would give them an A because they are responsible for not just getting a good forecast out there, but they also have to make it consistent and coherent for the public. So even if they think that it needs to change rapidly, they are constrained according to their own guidelines, and they have to instill a sense of confidence in the public, even if they don't feel like they're very confident themselves. And so in many regards, it's advantageous to be working for a private company like Coastal Weather, because you can go out on a limb a little bit more, and your clients are expecting that. I think they're expecting you to be willing to go out on a limb if you feel that it's the right thing to do, whereas if the Hurricane Center were to do something like that and then have to change their forecast radically, it would look, I think, really bad for the public. So I think given their own limitations, you have to give them a pretty good grade for being able to do as well as they do within that framework.
Yeah, 2020. I mean, hindsight 20 forecasting is 2020, but just going back to Joaquin, they were putting out forecasts that did not match the rationalization in the discussion. The discussion was it's going to go left or it's going to go right, and the forecast was straight down the middle. It was something that they acknowledged was very, very unlikely. And again, given the parameters they have to work with, that might have been the best they could have done. Maybe not. I don't know. And I don't put myself there because that's a really tough job. Maybe we need to get past the point of issuing fixed forecasts with fixed error cones and actually start incorporating the uncertainty that goes with a particular system. Or, in a situation like Joaquin last year where it was really strong signal that it was going to be one of two paths, give me a cone of uncertainty, as it were, that actually accounts for that in some way, shape, or form. What do you think of that?
Absolutely. I think, and not to go too much into detail on some of the products that we do here at Coastal Weather.
Oh, go on. You do too. This is free advertising.
We do things like that here because we're able to. I think that the only way that you can really generate forecasts in the style that would be better for the Hurricane Center as far as working outside of the framework that they're in right now would be to have varying cones of uncertainty, exactly like what you were saying. If you remember Debbie, I think from 2012, I think it was Tropical Storm Debbie, it basically came up in the Gulf of Mexico, dead center, and it was as if it was on the crest of a ridge. And if it felt the bump from a trough to the west, it was going to roll away to the east towards the Big Bend of Florida. And if the small little narrow ridge of mid-level high pressure built in strong enough and it began to trickle westward, it was going to go into Texas. And there was basically no shot that was going to go up the middle of the Gulf Coast towards the Mobile area. And the Hurricane Center started out by leaning towards the westward track, towards Texas. And then it became apparent that it was feeling a little bit more of the trough, and it was going to go east into Florida. But rather than, because of their framework within which they have to operate, they could not swing the forecast from Texas and all the way 180 it over into the Big Bend of Florida. Instead, what they had to do was swing it in increments from here's Texas, and then they're going to go to New Orleans, and then Mobile, and then Tallahassee. And so they hit every single major metropolitan area along the Gulf Coast in the process of getting the forecast to where they wanted it to go. But they weren't allowed, according to their own guidelines, to take it 180 the opposite direction and get it where they wanted it to be without doing it in increments. And I think that that goes back to what you were saying about creating realistic cones of uncertainty that vary depending on the uncertainty associated with that particular situation.
And to their credit, they do, some of the probabilistic products do incorporate some uncertainty, some model uncertainty, historic uncertainty, size of the storm, that kind of thing. But it's, for the moment, it's fairly advanced users like yourself, for example, that are using those. And I think it's maybe time to evaluate incorporating that in some way, shape, or form into the formal, cone products that go out, even if it's a single deterministic, line or set of points that that cone is based out of. Freedom to draw or to somehow incorporate the size of the storm, the uncertainty, that sort of thing, into that to try and get at that. And that, still leaves out the the size of the impacts. I mean, the cone is really just where the center goes, not where the impacts go, and that's still a common misconception that people deal with today.
Sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. I told John in the chat that I was done, and then I just kept talking. Sorry, John. I'll shut up. I'm going to mute myself now. Here.
Oh, I know to sit back and wait my turn. Andrew, what strikes me greatly in this whole discussion about landfalling tropical cyclones is the science is actually incredibly good, and the numerical models that are out there are as good as they've ever been. And pretty soon the National Hurricane Center will start issuing surge watch and warning products. What's happened in the last 10 years, though, is there's been a changing demographic across the Gulf Coast and of course, across Florida. I think the average age of the population in Punta Gorda is 65 years old, and that's where Hurricane Charlie made landfall in 2004. I was wondering if you could comment on how do we deal with this population that, first of all, has had no experience with tropical cyclones, doesn't know what it means to evacuate, and truly do not have a sense of the risk that tropical cyclones pose to life and property.
Oh, goodness. I guess that goes back to the question earlier as far as how can we improve communication of the forecasts in general. That's a really, really tough question to answer.
I'm just doing what James would do.
The short answer is I really don't know.
I don't think we do either, to be honest with you.
I'm not sure if anyone has a good answer to that. But I do think that it's getting to the point now where I think in small doses you can start trying to communicate realistic uncertainty, because the more that you get the uncertainty associated with some situations out there, even if it's in small bits to start, eventually it'll get picked up and pretty much everybody will have at least some understanding of the uncertainty and what that means for a particular situation. But you've got to start it somewhere, and maybe now is as good a time as any to do it, because like you said, they don't really have necessarily a lot of preconceived notions about the system, so maybe this is the time to try to implement it. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing, same as what a lot of people are doing.
Scares me, though. I think the prospects are incredibly. The downside is huge in this.
All right, one more hard question for Andrew. Andrew, you're looking at the map here on the screen. This is the standard National Hurricane Center forecast map with the center line, the cone. If you could change it, would you change it? And if you were to change it, what would you do with it?
Are we just talking about in general?
Yes, that look's been around for a long time. Is it good? Does it need to be changed? What do you think?
I know there are a lot of proponents for getting rid of the center line because people tend to focus on it too much. I think that as long as you can find a way to really explain what the cone around it, and some people want to do away with the cone and just have spread or an area of something other than a cone. I'm not sure the best way to go with that, but I'm not against having a center line personally. I think that what we need to do, as was mentioned earlier, is begin to allow the size of the cone to be drastically different depending on the synoptic uncertainty with the individual situations. But then you're relying on the public to be able to digest the differences in the uncertainty. You're assuming that they can start picking that up. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think the difficulty comes in. I'd like to think that if you start doing it, they'd be able to start grasping what you're trying to tell them. But you don't know, I think, until you really try.
Yeah.
What prompted this question? What prompted this question for change?
I was just being cranky.
Oh.
I just wanted to know. I mean, people are saying, the center line needs to go away. That's the one thing I hear. And I just wanted to hear what Andrew had to say about it.
You can turn it on and off, or at least you could last year, right?
Yes, you can. The center line is not the most probable track. That's the problem. It's not. That cone represents a 75% confidence.
The idea of change just worried me a little bit, not because I'm opposed to change, although I am, but I feel like a lot of these changes that we make, we pay such close attention to this stuff, and we can't monitor or expect to predict the reactions to change for everybody. Everybody's going to have a different opinion to a change, but I just can't think of one major change that has been productive. I mean, I take the F scale versus the EF scale, and there's not an anchor person in the country that understands the difference between the F scale and the EF scale now. I'm sure there are a few, but do we know any successes on those changes that have happened?
While we're being cranky, Kevin. So
yes, this is the same thing. This has caused all kinds of angst, and I certainly don't think it's an improvement. I understand what they were trying to do, but
let's explain what we're looking at for those people listening. This is the new SPC Outlook,
right?
And the new Outlook basically has 5 categories, where in the old days you had 3. You had slight, moderate, and high. Now you have marginal, slight, enhanced, moderate, and high. And so, Kevin, you think that this change was not good?
I would argue that the category names were not good. Yeah, that's what's caused problems. I mean, I think a person of reasonable intelligence with the colors can see and make some assumptions about where the greatest risk is. And if they can't, it doesn't matter what you do; they're not going to pick up on it. But in that case, I think the names were a problem.
So here's, and again, I'm going to go down a rat hole. So today I've been dealing with this, and I'm showing the convective outlook, which is the day 2 outlook for tomorrow. So what you're seeing on the screen for those that are, watching, that's the Storm Prediction Center product. So the local office has this.
Yeah.
No.
And they have a whole different set of categories and colors. And it doesn't even match. So the local office, and I'm not fussing at anybody at SPC or at the Weather Service in Birmingham.
Fussing, and it's
I'm fussing at all of us.
fine.
Me and everybody in this room. So this graphic has limited, elevated, significant, and extreme. You go to the SPC and it says marginal, slight, enhanced, moderate, and high. They don't even match. I don't even know what these terms mean on the local Weather Service graphic. And they've got this red line.
Define them right up there. They define them right, and in their defense, limited, elevated.
Can you put up the torque on there? I can't figure out.
My head will blow. But look. So I don't even know what it means. What is significant by this definition? What is elevated?
Strong tornadoes and damaging winds with up to 70 miles per hour. I mean, like I said, in your local office's defense, those terms are defined up there. Now, does that excuse it? Does that make this? This is the thing that I think frustrates me, and people are going to misinterpret this, and I'm sorry. I love the Weather Service. I think they do a great job with, in a lot of cases, some really limited resources. But this kind of stuff doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. You've got a national center with some of the best severe weather forecasters on the planet doing this. They've come up with this. Fine, we got the 5 categories. Why is it that the local offices are doing something completely different? I'm with you. This doesn't make any. I mean, we get on the local TV stations for doing this stuff.
Right, and we've got to clean our act up too. To understand, this is not just a Weather Service. This is all of us. I'm fussing at me and everybody on this show, and everybody in the Weather Service. And I was hoping Rick or Brian would be here to see what they would say about this. But I agree.
To get ranty.
These men and women that work at the Storm Prediction Center are brilliant. So it's
and
like
the local office folks are good. I mean, this is the thing that drives me nuts is that there's a lot of reinvention of the wheel. It seems like when we could take the graphics, the categories, and let's build on that. I mean, this is.
Andrew, I'm warning you, buddy. I'm going to be cranky when I come down there. I'm just telling you. I will leave you guys with some stuff to think about. But I've been fighting. Here's the problem with me. People, the next things people, what's it matter to you? Well, I have spent time today I don't have answering questions as a result of the confusion. And I wish I had the screen grab in front of me. The Crimson White, which is the campus newspaper at the University of Alabama. Understand this town was hit by an EF4 5 years ago. It says in bold print up there in their headline on their webpage, high risk of severe weather issued for Tuesday night. Now, where do they get that? And they pulled up one of these graphics from the Weather Service thing in Birmingham that's got this red color, and they just thought that's what it means. But we are in this mass confusion and chaos, and we've got to do better. It's like we need to go back to first grade, and the teacher needs to say, hello, friends, let's all choose one crayon color. We can't even do that. So we need to get on the same page and share the same message. And the way we communicate it will be a little different, and the maps might look a little different, but they got to be, I don't understand this. So before I get in trouble, we got to stop and roll Professor Peters and the Astronomy Report. We'll come back with the Weather Roundup email inbox with Aubrey, picks of the week, and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
WeatherBrains 101 with Professor Peters.
2016 is one of those years we call a leap year. A leap year occurs nearly every 4 years, and this is the year in which we add an extra day to the calendar in the form of February 29th, also known as Leap Day. All other years are called common years. Briefly, these additional 24 hours are built into the calendar to ensure that it stays in line with the Earth's movement around the sun. Our modern calendar contains 365 days, but it actually takes the Earth 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 45 seconds to orbit the sun. Roughly 365.2421 days. Sounds like a mighty small difference, but over decades and centuries, that missing quarter of a day per year adds up and throws everything off kilter. So to ensure consistency with the true astronomical year, we periodically add an extra day to make up for lost time and bring the calendar back in sync with the heavens. Now, according to timeanddate.com, there are 3 criteria that must be taken into account to identify leap years. 1, the year can be evenly divided by 4. 2, if the year can be divided by 100, it is not a leap year, unless 3, the year is also evenly divisible by 400, and then it is a leap year. The Egyptians were among the first to calculate the need for a leap year, but the practice didn't arrive in Europe until the reign of the Roman dictator Julius Caesar. Before then, the Roman calendar had operated on a muddled lunar model that regularly required adding an extra month to maintain celestial consistency. Finally, in 46 BC, Caesar and the astronomer Sosigenes revamped the Roman calendar to include 12 months and 365 days. This Julian calendar, as it became known, also accounted for the slightly longer solar year by adding a leap day every 4 years. Now, while Caesar's model helped realign the Roman calendar, there was still one small problem. Since the solar year is only 0.242 days longer than the calendar year and not an even 0.25, adding a leap year every 4 years actually leaves an annual surplus of roughly 11 minutes. This minute discrepancy meant that the Julian calendar drifted off course by 1 day every 128 years, and by the 14th century it had strayed 10 days off the solar year. To fix this glitch, Pope Gregory XIII instituted a revised Gregorian calendar in 1582. With this model, leap years occur every 4 years, except for years evenly divisible by 100 and not by 400. The Pope's updated calendar remains in use to this day, but it's still not perfect. At this rate, it will take more than 3,000 years for the Gregorian calendar to gain one extra day in era. If you have a question about the weather, you can drop an email to question@weatherbrains.com.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your Astronomy Outlook.
NASA is sending a probe to return samples from an asteroid 33 million miles away later this year. About 2 years later, the spacecraft will begin braking maneuvers as it catches up with asteroid Bennu. It will arrive in late 2019, where it will then slow to about half a mile per hour relative to the asteroid. Then a touch-and-go maneuver to collect the asteroid samples will happen at less than a quarter mile per hour. OSIRIS-REx mission plans include the mapping of the asteroid, as well as that return of asteroidal samples for analysis. The spacecraft will return in September 2023, where it goes into Earth orbit. The return capsule will re-enter Earth's atmosphere at over 27,000 miles per hour, and the 7-year mission will come to an end in the Utah desert on September 24th, 2023. Bennu is a carbonaceous asteroid, about 1,600 feet wide. It's made up of rock and sediment, all containing carbon. Asteroids like Bennu record the earliest history of our solar system. Researchers also hope to find molecular precursors to the origin of life in Earth's oceans. NASA's Near-Earth Object Tracking Program is particularly interested in Bennu. Current data shows a relatively high probability of an Earth impact by this asteroid about 150 years from now. Mapping data provided by the mission will help improve those predictions. The probe will also measure the Yarkovsky effect, or sunlight's ability to change the trajectory of an asteroid. This is also of great interest in near-Earth tracking programs. On the lighter side, you can send a little bit of yourself or the artwork on your fridge to the asteroid aboard OSIRIS-REx. Submissions may take the form of a sketch, a photograph, graphic, poem, song, or even a short video. Submissions are being accepted until Sunday, March 20th, or when the hard drive being attached to the spacecraft is full, whichever happens first. The mission team accepts creations via Twitter or Instagram by including the mission account @OSIRIS-REx, along with the hashtag #WeAreExplorers in your message. Videos are also being shared via YouTube or Vimeo, including that same hashtag. Visit asteroidmission.org for more details. That's your Astronomy Outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
We are doing this show on the 22nd of February, and we are getting set for what could be a pretty big storm system for the eastern U.S. And again, on the screen for those watching, we've got the convective outlook, and this is what I was ranting about earlier. But the bottom line is it's going to be a very active day of convection for the southern states. A moderate risk of severe weather for parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, an enhanced risk surrounding that. The standard slight risk runs all the way from near Houston almost up to Atlanta. So very busy with convection. And Nate, what's going to do up in North Carolina when he gets up there?
Well, we're looking at both Cape and Sheer being pretty good for us to see something interesting Wednesday afternoon. Could be looking at a line of storms and with potentially a little bit of tornadic activity ahead of it, something we're watching very closely. We're in a day 2 slight risk, which may wind up getting upgraded a little bit tomorrow morning, as depending on how the overnight models run and how things evolve tonight as well. So that's something that we're looking at very closely for Wednesday. Anytime we've got a cold air damming scenario with a wedge front that's being pulled inland from the coast with sufficient juice, that always makes us nervous.
I would add, I heard from a friend that they've already closed some southeast Louisiana schools for tomorrow, for Tuesday.
Yeah, we've got some of our schools closing early. And Dr. John, water vapor satellite loop, love it.
Absolutely, tells all, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're talking about this storm system. Excuse me. It's got a really potent exit region, which is now moving into the Big Bend of Texas. 12Z this morning, there was a 100-knot wind at 500 millibars. I think that was northern New Mexico. So this is a really potent system, and it's got a lead system. If you're watching rather than listening, there's a shortwave moving across the central Gulf Coast. This will actually bring a little bit of rain, perhaps a wintry mix. This is sort of the first event. The second event, of course, is the one that's going to transpire tomorrow. And for us, back home up in Pennsylvania, this is going to turn into a big rain event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm concerned about flooding down here because with that lead wave, we had approaching 2 inches of rain today, and then we're going to have the storms come in tomorrow, so it's going to be pretty messy. But tell you what, looking at the clock on the wall here, I've got to see if Aubrey just happens to have a few emails to read tonight.
Letters. We get letters. We get stacks and stacks of letters.
Oh, yes. We have lots and lots of weather.
I'm sorry, Aubrey, I can do this, but I'm the lead, so I am now letting you and Nate and the rest of the gang take over. So y'all have fun. So
Got
go.
it. All right. So this one comes in from Devin Greeny. I was thinking about the radio songs that go to waste. They can't be cheap, but today with quadcopter and drone and GPS getting cheaper, has there ever been any consideration into letting these things parachute close to the Earth, disengage, and then fly themselves to the closest NWS office? Very innovative. I don't know. I've never heard of anything changing with the radio zones and the development of drones. Is anyone else?
Well, they're not that expensive, really, and they do have little notices. I'm talking about the radio songs. They do have notices on the package that says if you find this is not an alien spacecraft. Take this back.
Isn't there
local? Go ahead.
I was going to say, isn't the return rate on those like 30% or less?
It's that good.
No, it's not. The last I heard was about 5%.
Oh,
Okay,
wow,
yeah.
that low. Okay.
But they don't cost that much. What are they, $7,500?
Yeah, just throw $75 out the back window twice a day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I can't afford that, but no. The idea of doing quadcopters and drones and stuff, I think that technology is still fairly new, but there are some folks experimenting with it. Some of those actually already have, like I think with the Phantom 2, you can actually get a weather observing piece of equipment that you can attach to it, along with the camera that you can go up and right now the guidelines are such that it's unwise, if not straight up illegal, to fly it up above a cloud deck or above 400 feet without without a license and a flight plan and all that kind of stuff. But we're launching balloons twice a day from 5-6 dozen places across the country. I'd imagine that if we wanted to stick a drone up and have it go up to however many thousands of feet, whatever, that we could get some data. But I don't know that that's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, what's the effective height of those things? Because a balloon, 70,000 feet plus, but you can't do that.
Yeah, that's a question. I mean, these little quadcopters that $500,000 a piece. I don't know what their service ceiling is or their absolute ceiling is. So I know that in a Cessna 152, I can't get near as high as one of those balloons can go, and it costs a lot more than $75 a trip to do it. So I don't know what the quadcopters. Obviously, they'll be a lot lighter, so you need a lot less lift to get them up. But having said that, I don't see that changing anytime soon, although it would be really cool to be able to do that. One thing that we've thought about doing here is, especially with some of these CAD events where you have the thermal profile of the atmosphere changing so much in just the lowest few thousand feet even, to actually mount sensors on our broadcast tower, which is about 2,100 feet tall, and mount them every 300, 600 feet, whatever, see what that gets us. Still haven't talked management into that yet, but still trying.
We use our tower as a profiler in the winter months, and the end result, I should go get it. I think it's around the corner. It's a big, giant piece of plywood that says "Danger Falling Ice" that they put in the parking lot.
All right, some good stuff. So another email came in from Mike Cox. Shelby Hayes wrote a fantastic little post called "Why Am I a Meteorologist?" He said he shared it, so we have the link, so we can post it. Of course, we appreciate that. Chris White from the Roanoke area sent us a guest suggestion. I nominate Brent Watts, Chief Meteorologist at WDBJ, who is now our sister station. WHSV sister station in Roanoke, and was willing to appear as a guest. And I think we were able to score Brent Watts and maybe Robin Reed, John?
Yes, we do. We have them on the calendar for...
Awesome. Beginning of April?
April 4th.
Yep. So that'll be exciting. And Chris Bovitz wrote that about 4 years ago we did a show on the National Water Center. I'm wondering if you can have another show on the topic for an update for what they do and how they do it and how the water operations in the NWS have changed since the center opened. So Bill is working on that and seeing if we can get that show together. So we want to thank you for your emails. Thank you for your guest suggestions. If you want to email us, send it to email@weatherbrains.com. The email address is very easy. Email@weatherbrains.com. You can tell us what you like about the show, what maybe some of your guest suggestions, topic suggestions, whatever you would like to do, and don't forget to fill out the listener survey response. We'd love to get those on the WeatherBrains page. Just Google WeatherBrains. Everything will pop up.
Yes, it shows up. We're the only ones that would be so full of ourselves to claim that title.
That's right.
Thanks for that. And I just have to send a shout out to a couple of folks that commented on my rant last week about naming winter storms and why we probably ought to take a closer look at it as an enterprise. And I was surprised that there wasn't more negative feedback, quite honestly. I expected there'd be more folks upset about that idea, but either folks weren't listening, I wasn't very interesting, or they all agree with me. It's probably one of the first two. All right, let's move on to Picks of the Week. This is the part of the program where we go around the digital mahogany table and share anything, can be weather-related, and it can be a website, book, movie, what have you. And mine is the Event Safety Alliance, something that Dr. John Scala and Rick Smith and I have been privileged to be involved with a little bit. They're hosting a severe weather summit, and that's going to be coming up here shortly. This is for folks that put on big outdoor events, everything from like football games and concerts all the way down to even smaller sort of mom and pop events. And this is going to be a big deal. The agenda has been posted.
Well,
by the way, it's going to be running in the second week of March, so March 8th.
They haven't turned off the prompter yet.
And we'd love to mute Kevin.
Jeff said that they might not have to. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I had pushed the button there.
You got that day job to deal with. It's all good.
It's producers, they're just always I'm sorry.
It's all right. Severe Weather Summit. This will be at the National Weather Center in Norman, Oklahoma, and this is, again, it's for anybody who doesn't need anything with outdoor events. And if you remember a few years ago, we had the stage collapse at the Indiana State Fair. That was sort of a wake-up call, I think, for a lot of folks in the industry that we really need to pay this a lot more attention. There have been services that have provided that for a long time, but now you see a lot of agencies, a lot of groups bringing meteorologists on site for these big events, and allowing the meteorologist to look at the data instead of relying on somebody with an app or somebody with a friend who does it, that kind of thing. So I think it's a good thing. So Severe Weather Summit, that's being hosted in next month, and the website for that is eventsafetyalliance.org. You can check that out, and we'll post that link on weatherbrains.com. Kevin, while we've got you, before you get sucked into TV land, your pick of the week, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just posted, and I will tweet it out as well, but a nice time lapse from our tower cam. We had some nice gravity waves with Virga coming out of them across Wichita Falls and Texoma today, so that's fun to look at. It's not as good in the first few seconds, but if you wait, it gets pretty cool. I'll also plug something that's causing a buzz in the TV weather community right now. Nate knows about is Bloom Sky. You guys can talk about that. I got to go, but I'll tell you, Nate, I have been in direct contact with those folks, and we'll try and get them on a future program. So I got to dash. Thanks. See you guys.
Sounds
Congrats,
good.
Aubrey.
Very cool stuff. Dr. John Scala, pick of the week from you, sir.
Yes, Nate. Quick plug. I'm actually the lead presenter at the Event Safety Alliance Severe Weather Summit, followed by...
Yes, you are.
Yeah, followed by some really big names.
This some really good. I mean, I'm sort of thumbing through this. The agenda wasn't posted the last time I looked at it, and there's some really big names and folks that are in this business and know what they're doing. And I can't stress this enough. If you're involved with anybody that puts on big outdoor events where you want large numbers of people to show up, this is a big deal.
I couldn't agree more. So my pick of the week is actually following along with the discussions that took place today. This is a link to FEMA's America's Prepare-a-thon. This is a national event that will take place on April 30th and again on September 30th. And the whole purpose here is increasing awareness of hazards and then how to mitigate against them.
Very cool. And there have been a lot of Weather Radar Nation and ambassadors meeting is going on, but there have also been a number of courses that are being put on. I think distance ed courses being put on by the University of Hawaii for folks to learn more about weather threats and how to respond to them, how to be aware of those sorts of things. So and they're free, which is even better. So that's fantastic to see. Lead meteorologist Aubrey Urbanowitz. I love that. That has a good ring to it, doesn't it?
I think so.
Pick of the week from you, madam.
Mine is an article from the Roanoke Times about one of the Virginia Tech storm chasers basically installing, and he's an instructor for Virginia Tech in their meteorology program, installing a solar-powered weather station on top of Bald Knob in Virginia, which is about 4,300 feet above sea level, and to learn more about mountain weather, which is very, very exciting for those of us living in the mountains. So always like to know more about our weather patterns here.
Very cool. Andrew, a pick of the week, sir.
Well, I guess I would not be doing something smart if I didn't share about CCAPS again.
No, hold on. Well, okay, we'll let you pimp your stuff. All separate. You get a twofer. So it's something weather related. We'll let you pimp yourself in USA and CCAPS and everything. That comes in time. But something else, something cool weather related. Tease us.
Well, there's a big debate going on right now about whether Winston is the strongest tropical system in the South Pacific. I believe the South Pacific right now ever. That's kind of interesting. I think that reading through some emails on the tropical list, it looks like they're kind of settling on it being the third strongest, but it's all Dvorak estimates, of course. But still, it's a pretty hefty storm out there right now. So.
And folks in Fiji would probably argue for it to be the strongest. They took a
either way.
Probably so.
First, third, does it really matter at the end of the day? Yeah. All right, now here's the opportunity. Tell us how we can find, first off, about CCAPS and then about you and USA's fantastic meteorology program.
Sure. Okay. CCAPS, you can just Google CCAPS South Alabama, and it's going to pop up there. There's a registration tab. The registration is open now through Wednesday at noon. We've actually extended the deadline because of this. We knew that we were going to be coming on WeatherBrains and thought that a few more people might hear about it and be interested in attending. So we extended the deadline a couple more days. Again,
thank you.
Oh, absolutely. We'd love to have everybody come on down here if they're interested. But again, it's only $10, so it's about as cheap as you can attend a professional meteorology conference. Yeah, I say about
$10 won't get you a can of Coke at one of the other conferences.
Yeah, we'll say it is the cheapest. How about that?
Won't even get me a wing seat on a plane.
We almost felt like, why are we doing this for $10? And it's like, what's the point? But
really, the question is why wouldn't you do it? I mean, if you're anywhere, the only reason I'm not going to be able to get down there is because, unfortunately, it will cost me a lot more than $10 to get there. But if you're within 3 states of this place, and the lineup of talks you got for $10, whew.
Yeah, and the agenda is all online, and it's even not just the keynote speakers, the other presentations that we already had submitted. The agenda's online. There are some pretty top-notch talks, it looks like. So if there's anyone out there listening from Florida State or Georgia or Huntsville or Mississippi State, any of the surrounding schools, we'd love to have you guys come out here and attend. More the merrier.
And how do we get a hold of you if somebody has a question or wants to argue with your assessment of Sandy or the Hurricane Center? How can we find you?
Well, the best way to reach me is via email. I'm not on Twitter. I do have a Facebook page, but it's set to private and all that good stuff, so I don't usually discuss that too much. I'm not even really on there that much anymore. Best way is just email me at my university account, amurray@southalabama.edu, and I'm almost OCD with email. I'll get back to anyone who contacts me within. Sometimes it still says 0 minutes for the reply on Gmail, so that's probably the best way.
Well, we appreciate you being on the program this week.
And I'll also say I'm the recruitment coordinator for our meteorology program here. So if anyone out there is interested in attending a university for meteorology, feel free to contact me. I wind up handling most of those tours, and I'll get every bit of information you can need about our program. We also have a fantastic broadcast meteorology program here. In the last 4 years, we have a 100% success rate on getting broadcast meteorologists into the job field. As long as they're looking for a job. Some of them change their minds after the fact, but they've looked and they applied, they've gotten a job. Pretty cool
Stuff. Aubrey, before we cut away, you've moved your camera over. Tell us what's happening.
That's the little bear. The little bear is relocating, so she fluffed her spot, and she is now relaxing, waiting for me to get off the computer.
The bear's like, Mommy, stop talking on the computer. I'm ready for bed.
Oh, she's too funny.
Well, this is WeatherBrains. It's the All About the Weather podcast, the original one. We're 527 shows into this crazy experiment, and, well, I've got at least, 12, 13 more. Next week, Dennis Mercereau, formerly of The Vein, now of Mental Floss and Forbes, will be joining us. We confirmed that talk today. Have another one, Jeff Medlin, talking about rip currents. That'll be in a couple of weeks. John Porter from AccuWeather, really interesting talk about GOES frequencies. We'll have that conversation. The following week, April 4th, Robin Reed and Brett Watts from WDBJ Channel 7 in the Roanoke television market. Greg Carbon will join us toward the end of April. Tom Nizzle from the Weather Channel to talk about winter storms, I imagine. Of course, we won't have very many of those left in May, I sincerely hope. And Jason Samenow of the Capital Weather Gang joins us in the middle of May. If you have any other suggestions for folks, a number of those were listener suggestions. You can send those to us, email at weatherbrains.com. Let us know, if you can, who they are, why you want them on the show, and most importantly, if you can, some contact information. If you happen to have an in with some of these folks, it would be really great to have them on. All right. We normally record this little program here about 8:30 Central Time, 9:30 Eastern Time on Monday nights. We do it via Google Hangout. That's when we'll do it next week on the 29th of February, Leap Day, as Brian told us about. Until next week, I am not James Spann. Good night, and God bless. Thank y'all very much, Andrew. We appreciate you sticking on.
Thanks, Andrew.
Oh, thank y'all for having me on here. It was a blast.
Yep. Y'all take care, and good luck with CCAPS. I really wish I could get down there, but looks like a great conference.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a great time.
Cool. Y'all take care. Have a good one.
Have a good week.
Thanks.
Hey, it's a wrap. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to turn this off. We're going to do a song of the night and a weather update over on the on Facebook Live tonight, facebook.com/James Spann if you want to watch. So again, thank you guys. Y'all have a great week, and we'll see you next week for Weather Brains. Bye.